Nobody have this on? I don't know. Yes.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis. Welcome to this series on the network of global corporate control that is coming to you live today from DCTV Studios. Carmen Stanley is the producer, Mo Jackson is on audio, and Kofi Tendai is the floor director. Today's program is called Turning the World Right Side Out. Do you know when a sweater is inside out, how you turn it right side out? Once you start, you have to keep on turning until it's completely done. There's no halfway. That's how it is now with the international financial system. During these past 10 months, we've been exposing the corruption in the international financial system. We've been talking about how the media is trying to hide the fact that paper money is one big scam. The interconnected private banks that issue this paper money are actually bankrupt and really owe us more than we owe them. The world's wealth is in a trust called the Global Debt Facility. The Global Debt Facility is administered by the 188 ministers of finance on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. I am the overseer mandate trustee of the Global Debt Facility. I got this job by working with the Board of Governors and the representatives of the countries on the Board of Executive Directors of the World Bank. Working in the legal department of the World Bank for 21 years, I was in a strategic position. My main qualification for this job is that as a law student, I wrote a paper on the G77, that is 134 developing countries. The G77 is at the heart of the coalition that is taking back humanity's wealth in the Global Debt Facility and is converting paper currencies to currencies out of gold before the paper currencies crash. Paper currencies always crash. The reason that this series is called the Network of Global Corporate Control is because that is what the three mathematicians at the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich call the super entity that owns the banks and 40% of the other 43,000 companies traded on the world stock markets. We have been fighting and winning against the network of global corporate control. Let me give you a history of the Global Debt Facility. This was established by Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal is the Philippines' national hero. And Carmen, maybe you could put that picture of Jose Rizal up for us. He went to the Vatican as Father Jose Antonio Diaz in 1898, and he rose through the ranks. Jose Rizal became the Superior General of the Jesuits for 3 years at the end of World War II. Many people claimed that Jose Rizal had been adopted. Last week, I tweeted that Jose Rizal claimed that he was entirely descended from the Malay race. This question has consequences for who owns the land in the Philippines. So the next day, I got a very important document, and I tweeted that the Philippines was entitled to their land. And the reason that I tweeted that is if you read that document, you can see it was signed in 1949 by General Eisenhower and also by Harry Truman. They were minutes of a meeting on the 3rd of January 1949 at the Central Bank and of the Philippines. And one of the people who signed the document was Ferdinand Marcos. He was the lawyer for the trust, which is called TVM LSM 666. And it was also signed by the depositor. That's Jose Rizal. Proclamation and Declaration of the Gift of Love, World Asset Commodities, withdrawable in the year 2005. And let's stop for a minute and just talk about what that gift was of love, because humanity cares for one another. And that is something quite different from the way our world is actually conducted. There's something radically wrong with the way we have been caring for each other, and this is not typical of the way we really are. So we are going to find out when we've finished converting the currencies that we're a totally different community. We're going to be interacting very differently, and we're not going to be directed from the global debt facility. The global debt facility is simply going to give you clean money, and it's going to be up to you how you reorganize yourselves, because there's going to be a fair amount of house cleaning. You will find out that that intrusive network of global corporate control has been corrupting just about every corporation, every single NGO, and this is going to stop. It's going to stop, and it's going to be a wonderful improvement, but there's no guarantees about how this transition is going to take place. That is what you're going to have to be monitoring. One of the things that I tweeted this morning was to the mayor of the District of Columbia, because although I'm entitled to go back in the World Bank headquarters, I might be arrested. That's what happened to me the last time I went back to the World Bank. So we're going to have to see whether the groups of people who think they're entitled to keep humanity's wealth, when they're not, they don't own it. We own it. And it's administered by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. So we're going to see. My expectation, however, is that it's going to be a smooth transition. And the reason I'm saying that is because of a very accurate political science modeling tool that shows that there are coalitions in effect, in place, that are much stronger than this network of global corporate control. What the network of global corporate control depends on is that we're gullible and we accept misinformation that's deliberately given to us by the newspapers that they own. They're not entitled to own these newspapers because, as I said, they are bankrupt. The people who own all of these newspapers are us. And we have put this network of global corporate control in receivership. That happened in April, a year ago. And there's been no impact on the network because they think that we're too stupid to know what's really ours. And some of us are not that stupid, and we're reaching out to the others, and hopefully enough people will understand and look into matters. One of the broadcasts that I made on the radio this past weekend was a very sobering exercise. And after we finish discussing some of the other information I want to give you, I'm going to read you from the comments section, because not only are people confused, but they're not even polite. You would expect that they wouldn't be so absolutely certain of themselves if they didn't have documentation to back themselves up. And unfortunately, that's not the way these things are going. But let me proceed. By the way, I do put these teleprompters out, and that's for in case we get interrupted, which has happened occasionally during these broadcasts. And I'm hoping to put the session up on the internet after I finish taking my course in editing, which is one of the things that I'm doing here at DCTV. It's been 1 month since our last live program. We had a blizzard, and that interrupted our production schedule. A fair amount has been going on. On the 22nd of December, we broadcast the news that Queen Elizabeth II is illegitimate. When the UK Parliament forgot to mention the UK's international gold reserves and the global debt facility during their debate about corruption and continuing David Cameron as Prime Minister and George Osborne as Controller of the Exchequer, we pointed out that the United Kingdom is also in interregnum. And just this morning, I got a request to show how we had sent the offer of gold to the United Kingdom, and Justine Greening denied she'd ever received it. So I just put up one of the emails that I sent her that was acknowledged that it had been received. So they're scrambling there because enough people know that the people in the government have been preventing us from getting our gold. They've been lying, they've been stonewalling, and they're not entitled to do that anymore. And as a matter of fact, we have got to get our act together and get moving, because we are running out of time and the paper currencies are going to crash. We need to set the exchange in place. We don't have to exchange all of the currency. As a matter of fact, we're going to start off by exchanging the currency that's issued by these bankrupt banks. We're going to exchange that just for paper because it takes a while to transport the gold and to mint it into a form of currency that we call aurum. One of the things that happened recently was the Vatican attacked me in various ways. There was a physical attack using advanced scalar technology. This alarmed my friends and the colleagues I work with directly. It alarmed my family. I'm okay now, as you can see. I made it very clear this happened when a person who said he was representing General Dunford told me what was going to be happening, and I told him that I was telling General Dunford what was going to be happening, and then the attack happened the week following. This is technology, by the way, that's in the control of the military. One of the other things that happened was an attempt to put a commercial lien on the global debt facility. There's a Vatican agent named Anna von Reis. She sent a final notice of lien to the World Bank. I answered that, and then I found out that they were claiming I had never answered it. And when I went back and I looked at my computer, I saw it had been deleted. It took me about 3 hours, and then it miraculously reappeared in my computer. There are a number of groups that are watching what I do on my computer. So when I got the response that I had made, I retweeted it. And so there is no lien from Anna von Reis. Another attack was a rumor on the internet that Christine Lagarde, she's the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, that she traveled to Rome together with the general counsel of the International Monetary Fund, Sean Hagan, and that there was an agreement signed with the Vatican. This was supposedly signed on the 24th of January. I learned about this on the 1st of February, and I invalidated it because the managing director of the IMF must get approval from the board before she can commit to anything on behalf of the IMF. She does not have the authority to sign an agreement like that without getting board approval. That's very clear from the articles of the IMF. And I also sent an email to the IMF's general counsel telling him that if such an agreement had been signed, that he was no longer the general counsel of the IMF because he would have been misinterpreting the articles of the IMF in a very serious matter. And I thought that was the end of the story. But it turned out, just a few days ago, that there was a discussion among the executive board of the International Law Association, and Cynthia Lichtenstein, who's a vice president of the ILA, suggested that we invite Sean Hagan to the International Law Weekend, which takes place in October. And at that point, I figured this was extraordinary because the board of the ILA does not talk about who speaks at the International Law Weekend. That's up to the program committee. So I set the record straight with the ILA. I told them that they were already on shaky ground. And therefore, I tweeted that as well. I also said that there was a rumor, and where there's smoke, there must be fire. My job as the Overseer Mandate Trustee is to represent the Board of Governors in matters involving the world's international monetary gold reserves and other assets that belong to humanity in the Global Debt Facility. There's been a lot of discussion recently about the corruption in journalism, accounting, and of course, the legal profession. I followed up with my attempt to get the legal profession to admit that the Constitution of 1789 is not in effect in the United States. I had written to the D.C. Bar, and then I saw an op-ed piece about the Constitution of 1789 and about the Magna Carta in the January issue of the D.C. Bar Journal. So I wrote them again and tweeted it, obviously. I said to them, "You have been stonewalling my question. Instead, you published a letter in the January issue making it seem as if the U.S. Constitution of 1789 is still in effect, also forgetting to mention that King John surrendered his kingdom to the Pope on October the 3rd, 1213. I'm getting a lot of help all the time. One German lady told me about Germany's representative at the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Joachim von Amsberg. Germany is the fourth largest investor of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And as matters would have it, Joachim von Amsberg used to be the World Bank country director in the Philippines. The father of King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands was a member of the von Amsberg family. So when people ask me what's happening on the global currency reset, I ask them to ask Joachim von Amsberg. I also have them ask the same question to Switzerland. That's because Union Bank of Switzerland is holding the uncut treasury dollars that Ronald Reagan printed in an account of the Global Debt Facility. I was telling you about the course that I've been taking at DCTV in editing. I'm not very good at editing. As a matter of fact, I'm the worst one in the class. This is a humbling experience. I was going to make excuses about why it's hard for me, but that's one of the main things we're going to have to learn in the global currency reset, to own up to our flaws and to get help in overcoming them. I've gotten a lot of feedback in the 10 months that we've been on air. And some of that feedback is saying that because I'm a little bit more smooth in my presentation, this is showing that I'm a sellout. I'm not a sellout. And you're going to find out that either I get into the World Bank or you're going to have to pick up the pieces. I'm going to use the remaining time for some of the questions and answers that were there in the radio broadcast that I did on future trends. And also, if you have any questions, you can email me at karenhudes@hotmail.com. So let's turn to some of these questions. Actually, one of the first questions is, individuals in case there isn't a smooth transition. There's every reason to expect that there will be a smooth transition, but if there isn't, it's a good idea to have some precious metals. But this is not for investment. That's because there is a lot of precious metals in the debt facility. One of the other questions that I get is from people who have been buying other countries' currencies, hoping to make a lot of money during what they consider to be the value. And I've been telling them there's very little likelihood that they're going to make any money at all, that they should take these currencies, these foreign currencies. Some people have bought so you're not going to make any money on your foreign currencies. The way things are going to work is you're going to be exchanging all of the countries for money that's issued by a while. The future trends. She always says it's the Jesuits, but she barely mentions the Rothschilds and Freemasons. Of course, I mention the Jesuits. Also, Knights of the Garter. I've traveled and seen the Rothschilds' mark on the money of just about every place I've traveled. Shill. You didn't end. Tupper Saucy said rulers of evil, international finance and banking are not primarily Jewish. Many of the most powerful banking interests in the world are run by Gentiles. One of the most powerful forces in international banking is the Catholic military superior general. Sadly, even a certain segment of the alternative media helps to propagate the lie that the Jews run international banking. Interestingly, one of the titles of the Rothschild banking dynasty is Guardians of the Vatican Treasury. The Jews as a people have been used for centuries as a scapegoat by these international banksters and their secret societies, such as the Jesuit-controlled Knights of Malta. To label the Jews as running banking, Hollywood, etc., is to throw out the proverbial red herring designed to throw us off the scent of the real controllers. And then there was a further question. Let me not read those questions and answers. Let me just say that it's going to be very important for all of us to be engaged in the global currency reset. And there will be a lot of questions some of the questions are whether there's going to be forgiveness in the mortgages. Uh, this is what happened in Iceland. And these questions are all going to be answered by the people themselves. They're going to have to get themselves up and running, up to speed. There's been a lot of suppressed information, which is going to be coming out. And of course, the journalists have not been on our side. It's going to be confusing to sort through all of the different information. There's going to be a lot of rumors. This is going to be to confuse us deliberately. And the very first thing that you need to do is to learn how to think critically, to try to figure out how to evaluate the information that you're getting from the various sources, and not to act precipitously, because this is actually a wonderful opportunity that we have. We're going to be inheriting our wealth. This is a reason to celebrate, but also in moderation, because we're going to have to do a lot of transitions. The banks, we're not going to close the banks because we do need banking services. There's been a lot of discussion about punishment, whether there ought to be punishment. And the problem with that kind of approach is that you're not going to have a smooth transition that way, and everybody is going to suffer. If you remember the picture of the boat with the hole at one end and the people on the other end saying, thank goodness the hole in the boat is not on our side. We're all in this together. And I'm actually really looking forward to being part of this. It's a colossal change when you think about it, how we've been systematically misinformed, and that we now have the opportunity to find out what the facts really are, to go and punish people when we don't have all the facts. It's going to be distracting us from the very important work that we have. We spoke in the previous week about the local currencies. That has got to be up and running. If you read the monetary agreements, you'll see that the way the countries get more gold because their economies grow is because the local currencies are also growing. And that's the best way for your economies to grow, is in the local area and using your ingenuity to collaborate and to reinforce what's going on in your local areas. It's going to be a wonderful, exciting time. Let me tell you, one of the reasons that I'm so optimistic that things are going to go smoothly is because of the conversation that I had with the Embassy of Colombia. I was telling you about the 134 developing countries which are part of the group of 77, and they have a special liaison, and that liaison is with Colombia. So I expect that we're going to be really working with this coalition, and we're going to be collaborating. The companies that are making so much money on wars are going to have to retool themselves into some other industry, because we're not going to be having the wars that we had. This is going to be a monumental shift, but it's going to be one that we can all be very proud of. I'm waiting for the teleprompter to scroll because I'm being told to wrap up. I don't have the line. As I said, we've been printing the teleprompters so that you can read along. But you see that we're going to be working together. And thank you for listening.
was some obviously technical difficulties.
Do you think that was a deliberate attack?
I don't know, but we weren't even able to get the credits. Audio.
Was there any audio at all?
Oh yeah.
It was just very soft?
No, just at one point.
When I had to turn the mic?
Yeah. But no, we're just talking about at the end.